When I first heard about this game a few months ago, I was pretty excited. The reason being is that from my understanding, the team that worked on the Shin Megami Tensei games would be involved with this title. And while that is true, Monark was missing something. It was missing the same quality that you would expect from that team. Potential spoilers ahead. For one, let's start with the story. In Monark, the protagonist is stuck in an academy. And like the other students there, he is trying to make his way out. The problem, though, is a mysterious mist covering the floors of each building within the academy. While it sounds harmless at first, this mist will slowly drive the protagonist and the other characters mad, forcing them to go to one of the few areas that haven't been hit with the mist. Adding to the dilemma are the pact bearers, people who have made a pact with a powerful demon known as a monarch. These pact bearers are causing additional issues for the students stuck in each building. For example, one of the pact bearers, who was bullied for a long time, is taking revenge on his fellow students with his newfound power. Another example is the pact bearer, who was envious of everyone around him that was happy. So, because he was in so much pain, he transferred that pain onto the people around him. So now everyone can suffer. To stop these pact bearers and clear the mist, the player must travel to the other world by accepting strange demonic phone calls. Once in the other world, the player must destroy the ideals of a pact bearer, which are strange crystal-like structures that contain the will of the pact bearer. Doing so won't be easy, though, as, in the other world, the player will face off against many demons as they try to restore the academy to its former self. While the story beats mentioned above are fine, the characters and the choices you are presented with hinder the experience. While the characters in your inner circle are decent, the surrounding villains and NPCs are insufferable. For example, you'll often witness short cutscenes while exploring one of the many buildings within the academy. It is usually within these cutscenes that you will be ridiculed by the NPCs while you are trying to help them. Taking a step back for a moment, I mentioned that you will be presented with choices. At specific points in the game, the player will be prompted to respond to certain situations. And while that's great, these choices feel largely insignificant as they don't change the story in a meaningful way. The only thing it does is slightly alter how a character will respond to you in those situations. If you played an SMT or Persona game before this would be a bit alarming to you, as choices in those games can drastically change the story's outcome. However, going to a more positive note for a second, some choices are legitimately interesting. The player will occasionally take a short quiz throughout the game to help determine which of the deadly sins they align with the most. After taking the quiz, you'll see points added to the sins you align with the most, which can be used to access ideals scattered throughout the academy. Accessing one of these crystals will grant the player and their team a stat boost, in addition to accessing additional buffs. You'll also be presented with a short summary of where you land on the personality test, which can be amusing. Moving on to some of the other gameplay mechanics, starting with the academy area. Here you'll explore each building as you attempt to make it to the pact bearer of that particular building. To get to them, you'll often have to clear out a few of the building's floors, which are covered in mist. As mentioned earlier, this mist will slowly drive your characters mad, so they implemented a few gameplay mechanics to highlight this. If you take a look at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see a gauge that represents the character's madness level. As you're exploring one of the floors of the academy, this will slowly fill over time. If this gauge fills up, the player will black out and return to the academy's infirmary. To further complicate things for the player, you will occasionally receive a phone call while exploring the floor. While that doesn't sound intimidating, if you leave your phone ringing, it will alert the other students on that floor. Since these students have already gone mad, they will attack you if they hear the phone ring, resulting in your madness gauge drastically increasing. Because of this situation, you would think that all you need to do is answer the phone, right? Well, doing so actually does more harm than good for the player, as if you were to answer the phone call, you would be transported to an area of the other world that far exceeds your character's current level, resulting in an almost guaranteed game over. The only way to get around these issues is to call a specific number that Vanitas gives you. Once you call that number, you will be taken to a battle that is more reasonable to deal with. I'll touch on the battle mechanics in a second, though. However, once you clear the battle, the death call of the particular floor you're on will stop coming in, allowing you to explore the floor a little easier. While exploring these sections, your primary goal is to find a set of ringing cell phones. Doing so will allow you to track down one of the pack-bearer's ideals. Before you find these cell phones, though, you will usually need to complete a short fetch quest or puzzle. Doing this will grant you access to where the phones are. Once you find the phones, your phone will start ringing again, indicating that you can travel to the location to where the ideal is. This brings us to the battle mechanics. When you first enter a battle, you will see the map layout and indicators of where your units and the enemy units are. In addition to this, if the current battle will feature any traps, you will see them on the map as well. Once you confirm the units on your side, the battle will begin. Like with many other JRPGs, Monark features a turn-based system with some strategy elements tossed in as well. The player will maneuver their units around an intricate map until they are in range to attack. Once they are, they can select from a couple different attack styles. Both sets have pros and cons, so don't favor one type over the other. Authorities allow you to attack, but increase your madness, or arts, which also will enable you to attack, but will drain your HP in the process. As mentioned before, there are some strategy elements to consider while in battle, and the placement of your units is key to achieving victory. This is because based on where you place a unit during one of your turns will determine if you can have other characters assist you while you are attacking the enemy. In addition to this, you'll want to consider where the enemy is in relation to your characters because they can counterattack you or even assist each other during their turns. During these battles, something to keep in mind is that you'll want to try and keep the protagonist alive at all costs, because if he dies, it'll be an instant game over. Based on how many units you have left, and how many turns it took you to complete the battle, it will determine your rank at the end of the match. The higher the grade, the higher the bonus multiplier is, which is essential because you'll want as many spirits as you can get. This is because they are required to level up and buy additional abilities. This brings us to this game's major issue, the grind. Most RPG fans are used to grinding, but some games handle it better than others, and unfortunately, Monark isn't one of them. While some battle mechanics can be fun, the battles themselves can often take a really long time. You add that plus the low spirit reward and the considerable difficulty curve, and you end up with the worst combo when it comes to level grinding. Now on to another low point, the graphics. I knew going into this game that the graphics probably wouldn't be the best on the PlayStation 5. But I was still surprised at the game's low-quality textures. If they look like this on the PS5, I can't imagine how bad they must look on the Nintendo Switch. Between that and the low-poly models, this game isn't pleasing to the eye. So keep your expectations in check. That said, while the graphics aren't the best, the game does run smoothly. At least, from my experience. To close things out, would I recommend that you check Monark out? No. While the story is decent, the characters, level grinding, large difficulty curve, and graphics hold this game back a bit. At least in my opinion. If you decide to pick this game up, I would wait for it to drop in price. With all of that said, I am giving Monark a 6 out of 10.